Good morning. It's Wednesday, January 28th, 2026, and I'm Eric A. Cinotti, and this is the National Report. Here's what's happening across the United States. We begin this morning with the White House. The White House says that the president wants a full, fair, and fact based review of recent federal law enforcement activity that has drawn national attention. Officials say investigations must be guided by verified information, not speculation, and that conclusions should wait until reviews are 100% complete. The White House officials say this approach is meant to protect public trust and to ensure full accountability and is based solely on the facts and not emotion and not outside influence. They say when incidents involve federal agencies, it is important to slow down the process and allow investigators to work step by step to ensure that there are no mistakes and full accountability. Let me explain what that means. That means reviewing timelines, reviewing procedures, might include reviewing body cam footage, witness statements, other video statements, surveillance footage, a whole host of things that need to happen to ensure we, as the American public, the American taxpayer, and the community, are getting full answers. This also includes reviewing policies and procedures that are currently in place and reviewing how decisions for this particular operation, this event, were made, how they were implemented, all of those things. Officials say this kind of review takes time. It really does, folks. It takes time. It's not something that's going to happen in a second. And you and I don't want a rush job as Americans. This is our hard earned tax dollars. These are people's lives and public safety in jeopardy and on the line. We want accountability. We want a full comprehensive review. So, in order for us to get those answers, then these particular agencies and investigators and reviewers need to have complete and accurate information and get everything in totality before they come forward and bring us any news. On further White House information, the White House says that the First Lady is scheduled to ring the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange today as the trading market opens. Officials say this appearance reflects an ongoing public engagement and a national outreach, and we are hoping that this will bring good sentiment to everybody. Also, federal officials continue to highlight actions aimed at speeding up recovery and rebuilding for communities that were widely impacted, damaged, destroyed during wildfires. They say the focus clearly is on removing the delays and the process that has been slowing down the rebuild so that families, small businesses can start to rebuild at a more expedited process without as much red tape to avoid the least amount of impact on an already damaged and hurt community. Also, earlier this week, the White House marked International Holocaust Remembrance Day, honoring the victims and reaffirming our nation's commitment to combat hatred and protect religious freedom for all. White House officials say that these messages reflect a broader responsibilities tied to leadership, memory, and public safety in general. Turning to our top national story today. Federal authorities are continuing to review all of the information on that fatal encounter that occurred during a federal law enforcement operation in Minneapolis. Officials say multiple agencies are involved in reviewing what happened. They are reviewing how the operation was planned. They are looking at every detail. They are reviewing how decisions were made and how they were made during this particular encounter where tragic life was lost. This story has drawn much national attention because it raises many questions that Americans care about, regardless of your politics, regardless of your standpoint. Questions about how federal operations are carried out. questions about when force is used, when use of force, when ultimate use of force is utilized, all aspect of government intervention, putting their hands on another citizen. People want to know about that. These questions are about accountability and how that accountability goes into play when something tragic like this happens and things go wrong. Now, for many people like you and myself are probably on the same page. Our questions are straightforward. We want to know what happened. I want to know what happened. You want to know what happened. We all want to know what actually happened. I don't want to hear the noise. I don't want to hear banter. I want to know with specificity what happened. Bottom line, I want to know why it happened. I want to know how we got there. And I'm sure you at home listening want to know how we got there. Want to know who authorized this operation specifically and who was authorizing these actions. And we also, you, me, and everybody should want to know what changes, if any, will be made going forward should they decide that there are changes or not. What are we going to do going forward? And officials say the review is active and ongoing. I can tell you from experience, these things do take time. I know that it is very tough times in the public, especially if you are one of these communities that are heavily impacted by this. If you're traumatized as an individual seeing it, we all understand that. It is a human factor. It is part of life. But you don't want a rush job. We want fair and balanced and accurate accountability of exactly what happened. And the chips will fall where they may. If that means somebody is indicted and charged, then that is what must happen. And if that must mean that changes must be made in the federal process, then that is what must happen. But we must stay strong and together and united as people, as humans. And we must allow the system, as much as we may not always trust the system, we must allow the system to go through the process. We can do oversight, but we must allow it to go through. They are working through tons of evidence, and it's a methodical process. It's nothing that's going to be one, two, three. There are lots of things, lots of working parts, and there are lots of different federal, local, and state and other agencies that are involved. And you're having a lot of people that are not used to working together, having to work together to come up and form a conclusion. We have to let that happen. We owe that to the officers that were involved, and we owe that to the victims, and we owe that to the community. So this way, future situations like this don't arise. So please, we should stay calm. And right here on the National Front, we will be keeping with this. Trust me, we will not back off of this. They say early information can be incomplete. We know that. They say that reviews are designed to go through the process from step by step, and they will share them, but they will only share them when they feel that they have the answer. They're not going to give you pieces of information without a final conclusion, especially when we're talking about public safety here. So public response has continued to be out there in several cities. People are gathering. They're out there. People are asking questions, and people are calling for clear and concise answers. And we here at the National Report hear you and are with you. We are urging that we all take a step and a breath and let the process go into effect. Officials say they understand these concerns, and they are focused as well on doing the best possible review and doing it responsibly. And they will provide those answers when they have them. Now, here's why that matters to you at home, folks. Okay? Stories like this may feel distant at first, especially if you are in other regions in the country, a lot of other things going on. They may seem far away. They may seem complex because you know what? It is a very complex process. Somebody that understands this and has the background that I have, I understand how local and state and federal agencies, it is a very complex system. And it seems that way, and it really is, but we have to let it go through. Trust me, the concerns of everyday people are being heard. We need trust in our institutions. We all do. We need that. We have to have that. We're America. We have to have that. We have to have safety in our communities. We have to have safety for our families, safety for ourselves, safety for our communities, regardless of what political side, what race, what gender. It doesn't matter. Immigrant, citizen, it does not matter. Our communities must remain safe. And how authority uses its situation and handles it when things escalate. This has to be looked at, and it is going to be looked at. And we here at the National Report will be following up on that as we move forward in days and weeks to come. Many Americans want to know what actually happened and how systems respond when something so tragic like this goes wrong. And we all, you, have a right to know that. These are your governments, these are your elected officials, and the people that are working in these sworn positions are appointed officials who are brought on by elected officials. So you pay for them. It is your tax dollar, and they represent you. And you, me, and everybody have that right to know. We want to know if the rules were followed. And we want to know if somebody is going to acknowledge a mistake if one was made. And we want to know if that did happen, are lessons learned. And leaders say careful reviews are there to answer such questions. They say that the purpose is not only for accountability, but it is for improvement. And I like to hear that. And you should want to hear that at home. Because yes, it's about accountability, but we cannot bring back the life of anybody's life that was lost. But we definitely can work toward improving that in the future. And that's what this process is for. So future decisions can be made better with better information for better judgment. Across our country, people are watching not for politics, they're watching for understanding. Stay tuned here to the National Report, because we'll help you with that process. Now, moving on to the economy. New data in the United States suggests that consumer confidence fell in January to 84.5%. That is the lowest it's been in over a decade. Consumer confidence reflects how people feel about their jobs, the prices, their income, and their future. Okay? When confidence fails, it does not mean that our economy has failed or our economy has stopped. Okay? It means that people are unsure. Okay? We're unsure. For families, that uncertainty often shows up in our everyday choices. We all know this together. We're all in this together. Waiting to buy a new car or a car if you need a car. Putting off much needed home repairs or any home stuff. Spending less money on extras. Maybe not buying that extra clothing or fragrance, because I love my fragrances. So maybe I won't buy an extra cologne this time. And saving extra money where I might have spent that on something else. That's what it means. And it means for small businesses, fewer customers potentially. And for employers, it means being cautious about hiring. And for communities, it may mean slower growth, but it doesn't mean no growth. This is not a moment of scare. Economists say confidence numbers help show how people feel right now. So maybe that's the statement we needed to make. Maybe that said something to everybody. Maybe these people are going to review that. They describe it as a current snapshot in the mood of Americans and our expectations of the future. It's not a prediction, it's a signal. And it's not a prediction of failure, it's a signal of how people feel. And feelings are important, they must be validated. And leaders and planners use these signals, they validate them to understand where attention may be needed next. And that's what we want them to do. Now let's talk about the weather and public safety, because it's been a rough one recently. Recovery continues after a major winter storm that affected large parts of our country. The storm brought heavy snow, ice, dangerous temperatures, cold temperatures to many regions across our nation. Officials say the storm has been linked to multiple deaths and injuries. Injuries and deaths that were involved to traffic accidents on icy roads, falling tree and debris, and exposure to extreme cold. Power outages have affected hundreds of thousands of families and businesses at different points during this process, during this storm. And in some communities, power is still yet to be restored. So, what does that mean? That means families are without heat, schools are readjusting their schedules, and businesses may not be able to open, and travel is disrupted for many. Roads still remain to be icy places. Many flights have been canceled or delayed. Emergency shelters and warming centers are still open and operating to the best possible that they can to keep people safe and warm in these rough times. Volunteers and first responders continuously work tirelessly in the most difficult situations. Hats off to them to work hard to keep us safe. And they are doing that. And we thank them for that. Officials urge to maintain caution on these icy roads and to remind people that even though the snow may have stopped falling, the cold temperature still remains a deadly force that can cause death, bodily injury, and all other things. So we need to remember that. It is our duty as individuals to pay attention to that for ourselves and for others. Now, focusing on Congress, Capitol Hill, there is congressional testimony today. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is testifying before Congress today. Matter of fact, as we speak, he is discussing U.S. foreign policy priorities, including policy towards Venezuela and broader issues in the Western Hemisphere. Lawmakers from both parties, Republican and Democrat, are asking questions about the strategy. They're asking about the legal authority. And they are asking about the long-term goals and projected plans of United States foreign policy. Officials say these hearings are part of regular congressional oversight. Folks, these are not emergency hearings. These are not things to get you nervous or upset at home. This is a normal part of Congress. This is what we pay for as a taxpayer. And this is the system working for you and for me. They are going to oversight and they're going to look and ensure that everything's been followed and that we have a fair, equitable plan moving forward that benefits the United States, its citizens, and our partners. They say this process shapes our foreign policy and ensure that it is carried out and reviewed properly. So, what is the national impact? Across our country, daily life is slowly returning to normal. In some places, in others, recovery is still underway. Power crews continue to try to make repairs and restore power. Cleanup efforts are continuously ongoing and will be for quite a while. And emergency services are active and working in full force where needed. And officials are saying check on your neighbors, especially older adults or people with families with young children. And also remind people to use heating equipment safely in their home to prevent accidents. Community organizations continue to provide food, blankets, and transportation where needed. I want to preface back to the heating in your homes. Okay, there are certain types of heating devices in your home, heating space heaters and stuff. Some are not appropriate to be utilized inside due to various things. We don't want to get into details on here. If you have any questions, no matter where you are, contact your local fire department and they will be happy to help you. You could also go to the Federal Emergency Management Administration, FEMA, FEMA.gov, and they have all that information on the website. Pay attention because your actions are important and they're important for your neighbors and for your safety. So, with that, what are we going to watch today? This is what we're going to move forward. We're going to pay attention to the ongoing federal review because it is a fluid process that is continuing to move. It's going and things may change on a moment's notice. Here at the National Report, we will give you that information on our next uh, episode, but you should be paying attention to reliable news sources to ensure that you're getting factual data. You should be also paying attention to information about storm recovery and power restoration, not only if you live in one of these regions, but if you intend to potentially travel to and from one of these affected areas. You might want to keep up on that. Also, pay attention to what's going on at Capitol Hill with Senator Rubio's testimony as it continues, right, as we speak. Information is coming out as we speak. Also, pay attention to how businesses are responding and how markets might change due to the new consumer confidence number. Officials say that later information today might change, and it will. And a last minute add in, I'm tracking right now, we just added this in minutes ago. I'm tracking a court authorized FBI search underway as we speak at the Fulton County elections in Georgia. And we will update you with the confirmed details as they emerge. But they are there. If you recall back to the elections, there was some potential impropriety. They are there as we speak, and they are going through records. That's all we can report on. With that, this day in history, very important, a very important segment on this show. On this day, January 28th, in 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger broke apart 73 seconds after liftoff, killing all 7 crew members aboard, all 7 of them. Among them, Krista McCullough, a high school teacher from Concord, New Hampshire. It was the first and only time a civilian school teacher flew aboard a NASA space shuttle as part of an official government mission. The flight was part of NASA's Teacher in Space project, created to inspire young minds and students and bring education directly from space right to their classrooms. Millions of students across the country were watching live from their classrooms. Televisions were being rolled into classrooms and schools. Teachers told their students that they were about to see history in motion. And instead, they witnessed tragedy in real time. Investigators later found that a failure of an O-ring seal, worsened by unusually cold weather, allowed hot gases to escape and led to the breakup of the shuttle. This disaster alone grounded the shuttle fleet for nearly 3 more years. It reshaped safety standards and engineering oversight and decision making inside of NASA forever. For many Americans, including myself, it became a moment that has never left my mind. I was a young student at St. Joseph's School in Bogota, New Jersey, watching that very launch live in my class. I didn't yet understand what I was seeing, but I remember those teachers rushing to turn off those televisions. And I remember seeing my teacher cry and other teachers cry. And I remember those tears. And I still remember it today and still don't know how to process that. I don't. Years later, during my military service, I had the distinct and proud honor of actually going to the Krista McCullough Memorial at the Kennedy Space Center in Titusville, Florida, which was a monumental moment for me. It was, because I saw it live, and then I got to be there in uniform and stand at her memorial. It was a momentous moment for me. It reinforced a lesson to me that should stand with us every day about responsibility, about courage, and the cost of exploration. Now, before we go, a brief human moment, because we don't want to leave you on a bad note, down moment. We want to bring you, put a smile on your face for the day. Across the country, every day, Americans are showing resilience. In Nashville, Tennessee, Sarah Mitchell, with Hands on Nashville, helped open emergency warming centers during the storm, making sure seniors and families who lost power and heat had a safe place to go. In Flint, Michigan, neighbors organized a door-to-door check-in in making sure that elderly residents had food, blankets, and a warm place to stay. And in Austin, Texas, first responders worked through the night tirelessly, transporting people without power and heat to shelters as temperatures drastically drop. These moments don't belong to any political party. They don't. They're not about debate, disagreement, or discourse. They are about American exceptionalism. They come from something that we all share deep within, no matter who you are, where you come from, what your background is. We all have a human heart. And when things get hard, people step up. That's what makes America so great. That's what makes our people the greatest people. That resilience might be quiet, but it is shouting and screaming for the very people that it helps. And it may not make the headlines, but it matters to those very people. And it makes it to our report. And it reminds us that even in the most difficult of times, people will still look out for one another. That's a national report. I'm Eric A. Cinotti. Facts matter, context matters, and we will keep bringing you both. Have a wonderful day. Please stay safe. And as we close today, this is our first episode of the National Report. We're looking forward to starting this journey with you and bringing you clear facts, honest context, and a steady voice every morning. Join our family.
The National Report is an iHeart Prime featured show. New episodes drop daily, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms whenever you're ready to listen.